What's up everybody, it's Dragon from Strong Dragon Training, and today I want to take you guys through the overhand and the underhand single arm tricep extensions on the cable. Very simple exercise, but there's some key points that I want to point out to you guys that will make the exercise so much more effective and it'll get you that much extra boost when you're working your triceps. Okay, so the first one, and probably what I want to say it's a little bit the easiest out of the two, is the overhand tricep extension. Not only is the underhand a little bit more awkward, and especially if your flexibility in your forearm is kind of poor, then you'll find this one to be a little bit more uncomfortable. But overall, the overhand one is, you'll find most of the time that you have the most power and that you have more control over the handle and the weight itself. And you'll also find that pretty much 7 out of 10 times you'll be able to push in more weight with the overhand tricep extension than the underhand one. All right. So you can see here I got a nice little material cloth type of a handle, so this one can be moved and bent relatively easily, and this is what I recommend to you guys, especially on the underhand one. I'll get to that in a minute as to why. But most of the gyms have the metal ones. Unfortunately, I don't have one to show you an example, but it's the same idea, only it's more squarish and it's fully made of metal. Just the other part in the middle can roll, but you can't really move it left to right, which means it keeps your wrist in a very strict position. Now, those are great when it comes to things like cable flies or chest presses with the cables, but when it comes to something as detailed as this one, and you are planning on twisting and doing it underhand style, I personally recommend to have a little bit of wrist flexibility. Now, over the years, I have discovered that yes, my flexibility is not as good as it could be in most of the exercises, but I also found that certain exercises and machines that keep me in very strict position, you know, like a one-size-fits-all types of position, it really bothers my joints and more precisely my wrists. Right? I find that I always need to, even sometimes on the bench press, if I do a bar bench press, sometimes in certain position on a certain incline level, I find that my wrists are not necessarily too happy, and especially if I do a chest press on a machine, my wrists are completely, and my shoulders, they're just not having it. My favorite and most done exercise when it comes to chest, especially the bench press, is with the dumbbells. So whether incline, decline, or flat, I usually prefer dumbbells. Not to say that I don't do bar bench presses, but I prefer to limit them. But the most important one is over here, so I highly recommend, if your gym doesn't have it, to get yourself a pair of these kinds of handles. I mean, for a pair of these ones, they're like $25, $30 Canadian. That's what I bought them. So I mean, I'm sure you can find them a little bit cheaper, but these ones have lasted me for years and years and years. It's Pro Grip, and they've lasted a long time. Anyways, onto the exercise. So when you're doing the overhand tricep extension, first and foremost, you can't be so far away that you're doing this kind of a motion over here, okay? We're not going into really advanced. Yes, that can be done, but right now we're gonna focus on the basic to do this properly and safely, so that even the most beginner of you guys can handle and do the exercise safely. So, you're doing this one, you're gonna stand relatively close to the machine, aka once you pick it up. So for me on this one, I'm not fully all the way to the top. Now I recommend you should go, but in the case of my machine, how it's built, I'm near to the top, because once I'm in position and ready to go, the handle is pulled low enough so the weights are already off of the rack, so they're off of each other. Just in my resting full stretch position, the weights are off and engaged and ready to go. So from here, I generally recommend have the knees just slightly bent, shoulder width apart, okay? And I apologize, there's nobody filming in for me today, but visualize this one for a second. The knees are slightly bent, shoulder width apart, okay? Now, the back is always straight, so you want to keep your core engaged, back nice and tall and straight. What I also allow people to do is they wish they can hang on to the bar in front or to something on the side. Now, the one thing on this one is I try to encourage not to pull too much or to push when you have front or pull with the other hand. I let them do it, or I even do it myself if it's just for a little bit of support. right? So to prevent, especially if I'm going really heavy, this hand over and against the bar in front or on something on the side prevents me from doing any kind of unwanted swinging back and forth, right? Because you see some people in the gym really going and pushing down as like they're rowing. You're defeating the purpose at that point. So it's too heavy, lighten up the weight, okay? So if you don't feel like you're in the beginning points, you want to do everything straight to the point. The other arm can be on your hip, can be just on the side. Your core is engaged, abs tucked in, sucked in. Elbow is right next to your body. It doesn't move from next to the body. At this point, especially in the beginning points, there is no need to move the elbow up and down. Forget about it. We'll worry about that more further down the road. For now, elbow next to the body, nothing move from the shoulder. Arm engaged with a nice good grip, or rather wrist engaged, right, with a good firm grip on the handle, and you push down all the way. You come up for a full stretch, you push down all the way. Now, the elbow is one of the joints which I say go down and hyperextend. Really, really flex that muscle. So what I have found over my training years, that you get a much, much better muscle development and muscle peak is when you have that extra flex at the end. So as you can see at this point, fully stretch, I go down all the way and I flex the triceps fully. Then I come back and I let them stretch. I flex the triceps fully and I come down and I let them stretch, right? That's when you're getting that full engagement of your tricep. Yes, you can just do this and engage the tricep, but why not go a little bit further on? See how much more I engage the tricep as opposed to just extending the arm out, right? Hyperextend. Flex that tricep. Flex that tricep every single time you go down, okay? Now, on the upside, when you go for the underhand grip on the tricep extension, the cable tricep extension, overall, the posture is the same. So feet shoulder width apart, knees just slightly bent, engage the core, back nice and tall, looking straight forward. Now for this one, that whole wrist idea that I've been telling you about, just to give you a little bit of a better idea, I'm gonna use these little old ones over here because they move as well. So when you have your hand like this on a very fixed bar that doesn't allow the movement, it's very fixed. If the weight is a little bit on the heavier side, you're trying to build muscle, you may be just going for 8 to 10 repetitions. So your hand doesn't have this flexibility to push down. Remember that if you go a little bit like this on the handle and then push down the weight, that's not going to affect the triceps almost 0%. That's more of a comfort level on your wrist, okay? When you're pushing like this, and this is what I found as well myself, that I've tried with more and more weight, and I've been grabbing those metal handles. They've always been in position. They've always forced my wrist straight. That over time, I found aches in the radial part of my wrist. I found pain. Then it started going more to the ulnar side as well. And it was just, over time, was more, destroying the wrist, that everything was just aching and hurting. Switching to these guys, I have the flexibility of moving things around. So, as I mentioned, everything else stays the same, only you're allowed to play a little bit more on the wrist. Now, don't get me wrong, that if your wrists are really bad and you wish to have just a little bit of a bend, don't turn it into a hammer, even on the top one. Or when you're underhand gripping, turn it into a hammer, because you're changing the heads of the triceps and how they work. So you're putting a little bit more emphasis on one head over the other. But when you're having it palm facing up, you're engaging the tricep. A little bit of twist on inwards is just perfect enough to keep your wrist happy and to get you full power to work on those triceps. So as I mentioned, the other hand can stay against, can hold on to something, or can just be on your hips or dangling on your side. It's up to you. Elbow is next to you, fully engaged, and you push down with the hyperextend. You push down with the hyperextend, right? Again, don't just go up and down. Yes, the tricep is working, but if you're doing all the work, why not do it the right way and do it all the way and get the full work out of the tricep? Hyperextend and flex. hyperextend that elbow and flex, right? You're in a good enough position. You're not, when I mean hyperextending, this is not necessarily a position where you have, for example, like when you're doing squats and you're at the top. That is a no-go. Rule of thumb, if you've seen any of my other videos, there is no locking at the knees. When you're in an actual dangerous position, like in squats, or when you're doing chest presses, for example, you never lock your elbows out. You never hyperextend your elbows, or in the case of squats, your knees. But in this one over here, because of the angle at which this the cable is pulling me, it's not going straight up to say that the bones are going like this and then they have pressure going against each other. It's always a pull. The force of pull is upwards. So even if I hyperextend my arm, it's just the muscles working. There is no tension on the elbows. Unless you have very poor joints, your synovial fluid in between is just running low, or your tendons and ligaments are injured, then there should be no type of worry on this exercise specifically. Okay? Don't go going on the bench press, don't go on the other squats and start hyperextending those joints, because that's a recipe for disaster. You can pop that knee or that elbow at any given point. But with this one, you're what I like to call, you're in a safer position because of the angle of the force of the pull on the pulley. Okay? So, hyperextend, get that tricep really flexed out, boom, you're coming up. Hyperextend, flex out, boom, coming right up. Notice my elbow is not doing any kind of extra movement. It's staying fixed, hyperextending, just flexing that tricep, getting the full effect out of it. On the topic of breathing, every time you flex the muscle, you breathe out. So in this case, okay, focus on that breathing. If you've gymmed for a while, if you've been working out for a while, it's second nature to you. So you don't necessarily have to really think when I'm breathing, how I'm breathing. Every time you're flexing the muscle, you're putting that force, breathing out, forcing that air out will just give you that extra little bit of ledge and that extra little bit push and power into doing the exercising, contracting the muscle, and getting the full effect out of the exercise. So I hope this video helped you guys. If you have any questions, please comment below. Subscribe to my channel. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram. I'm going to post all those links after this video at the end. I'll be posting more and more videos like this. I'll be doing a mix, some of them with the workout, because if you've seen my previous videos, I am on the 12-week challenge with Sean Roden, so I'm trying to do a full transformation on myself. So I'm going to keep on posting those, do my best to keep you guys in the loop on how I'm progressing, how things are going for me. But I'll also be posting these instructional videos more and more to help, especially the beginners in the gym, to do the exercise right and properly, not necessarily to just go and copy off of any gym rat they see over there. Might be right, might be the proper way, might not be. I just want to give you guys the proper exercise and how to do them, what to do, and how to properly set your body from a biomechanical point of view to get the exercise A to be effective and B to be safe. Thank you guys for watching this video. I'll catch you on my next one. My name is Dragos from Strong Dragon Training. Push until you hit the wall, then break through it. See you guys next time.